Hello everyone, we're here at the Sheraton Hotel. It's Saturday, October 18th, and we're joined by Ontario Ombudsman Andre Marin, who just addressed the HiveX conference. Andre, what brings you here today?
Well, I was invited to present as a keynote speaker at lunch, and when I looked at the program, it looked very exciting, very vibrant audience, and a great opportunity to do some outreach and to talk about the work that we do at the Ombudsman's office.
And what do you do? What is your role, especially as it relates to, say, municipal government?
Well, right now we have a very narrow focus with municipal government. We investigate allegations that municipal council held an illegal meeting contrary to legislation. City council must, as a matter of law, conduct its business in an open, transparent fashion. And since 2008, we've had this new jurisdiction, unless a city has opted out of our office to oversee municipalities. Apart from that, we investigate over 500 different government ministries, agencies, and boards, and we take complaints every year, about 30,000 complaints, and we try to resolve people's problems.
And your office is very active. What is the size of your office and what's the budget?
We're only 87. Some people think sometimes that we're like hundreds of people. We're only 87, and our budget is about $12 million a year.
Okay, and Bill 8 is currently in front of the Legislative Assembly. What are you looking for from the legislature in Bill 8?
Well, Bill 8 is a bill which would provide our office with oversight over all municipalities, over virtually all matters across Ontario. That's 444 municipalities at both the administration level and at council level. So we're talking about a huge responsibility we take very seriously. Bill 8 also extends jurisdiction over universities and school boards. So it's like reinventing the Ombudsman's office when this bill goes through.
And what advice would you give to citizens or governments, municipal governments, that want to get involved in the discussion around Bill 8?
Well, get involved. Right now, it's often in the media, it's often on social media. The bill will be making its way through committee study. There'll be an opportunity for people to come forward and testify about the bill. And so it's time to have your voices heard. You know, when you look at politics, the words accountability, transparency, are words that are so used and overused that to many people that are listening, it becomes sort of a tired cliche. But Bill 8 provides the real deal. We'll be able to oversee municipalities, and oversee doesn't mean to always be on their backside. It also means help promote good governance, accountability, restore that connection between citizens and their local governments.
What advice do you give to, say, people who are newly elected to municipal councils? Because when they start in December 1st, but in November they're orientated, they're going to get a lot of materials that speak about the need to go into closed session under 239. Section 239 of the Municipal Act, and they're also trying to balance off, because they come in elected, they want to be more accountable, more transparent. How do they define that line between what legally and necessarily needs to be in closed session and what could be legally in closed session but may not need to be?
Well, there's nothing that actually in the legislation which tells the municipal council that they ever have to go in a closed meeting. That's the important part. Many people read the law and they say, oh, sister-client privilege, oh, it's got to be in a closed session. No, it doesn't. It may be. It's your choice. And so the default for municipal council should always be keep it open. Do all your business in an open, transparent fashion. Let citizens engage you. And an interesting thing has happened through this election campaign at the municipal level is that many of the incumbents have been on the record as opposing further oversight, whereas the challengers have embraced oversight, embraced Bill 8. So it'll be interesting to see after the election who's where, but I would strongly urge newly elected councillors to embrace Bill 8, to embrace oversight, and to not be afraid to really connect with the public. This idea of meeting in back room, back doors, backdoor exits from back rooms, as we saw in London in the Billy T's case, is outdated. In 2014, citizens have queued in and they know the legal obligations. So don't fight it, just respect the transparency required by the law.
And what advice can you give municipalities when they're debating if something needs to be open under the Municipal Act or not? As many municipalities sometimes bring together a group of councillors and an outside party for a private meeting, but the Municipal Act sometimes will say if you have quorum of a certain type of committee, you have to be open. And there's that gray area. So for example, here in Hamilton, you found that in this actual very building, that there was not a violation of the Municipal Act when a group of councillors met with a party interested in bringing an NHL franchise to Hamilton. So that's an example where, though quorum existed for that subcommittee, that committee's business was not furthered. What type of advice do you give people when they're in that gray area?
Well, we recognize that council members have the right to socialize. They have a right to go out for a pint, have a coffee. Some of the councillors have misportrayed our office as prohibiting any kind of contact. So we respect the fact that politics is politics, and sometimes you need to relate to your fellow councillors. The issue of the quorum, for us, is not a determining factor. It's an important factor, but it's not a determinative factor. For example, we've seen some municipalities where they have exact quorum, and one of the councillors, they play like moving seats. So one gets out of the room, and then 10 minutes later emerges, and then another one goes out, and they play this game. And so if there's no quorum in that case, but it's what we call serial meetings, or they all get on a chat room, and it doesn't count because it's electronic. The law doesn't talk about electronic meetings. And respect not only the letter of the law, but as well the spirit of the law. Don't play games. And we've caught several council playing those games. So just embrace it, don't fight it. Sometimes you can be a controversial figure yourself, and sometimes there are what I will call Twitter flame wars that will break out with you. One person asked why you tweet so much personal, and I want to get to how do you distinguish between yourself as the person and the office that you hold? Well, social media is by definition social. So if you always tweet from a corporate facade, then you might as well give up on Twitter. So in our office, the practice has been to generally during the week, we tweet about office things. On the off hour, at the end of the day, at lunchtime, or on weekends, then you'll see more of my German Shepherds and other things. The idea is to get to know the person who's tweeting, and that's what generates interest. You're not tweeting to a robot, you're tweeting to a person. And for those who don't like what I tweet, I simply say unfollow. Twitter is a self-sanctioned stalking mechanism. And if you don't like where I'm going, it's like saying to somebody, okay, you went to the grocery store today. Well, I've been following you. I don't like when you go to the grocery store. Well, then just don't follow me. So I think it comes with the definition of social media. And if people don't like it, go back to Facebook. A lot of questions that I was receiving, people asking, I realized that they were almost asking you as a public guardian. How much of your office's role would you say is that public guardian role that's fairly common in the United States? Because you mentioned public guardians during your talk today. I see my job very much as upholding the public interest, speaking on behalf of the public. Some ombudsman's offices are called public protector. In Quebec, the ombudsman is called protectrice du citoyen. In South Africa, it's called the public defender. In some U.S. state, it's called citizen's aid. And by nature, we're there to uphold what is in the public interest, not what is in the individual or private interest. And so that's very much part of my job. Second to last question. Your office does not charge a fee for making a complaint or seeking redress through your office. Some other offices do, some municipal ombudsmans do, or integrity commissioners. What is your thought on fee for service when it relates to these types of offices? Well, the offices that I've looked at, for example, Brampton, that charges $300 for a complaint to the integrity commissioner and so on, I think those fees are illegal. Unless they're provided for explicitly by the legislation, you can't just charge a fee. What that does is it creates a chilling effect. The Ombudsman, the Integrity Commissioner, Brampton, was in existence for years. Guess how many complaints he's had? 0. Who's going to pony up $300 to make a complaint? So these fees are set up, let's be very honest, they are set up with one purpose, is to create a chilling effect. And they're remarkably effective at doing that. Ombudsman services should be free of charge on an individual basis. We're funded by the province, and that will not change with Bill 8.
Final question. What are the goals of your office if Bill 8 does pass?
We want to be able to tackle those hot button systemic issues that have affected so many municipalities, not just narrow issues. The systemic issues about governance and how they operate, and code of ethics and how they're enforced, and if they create accountability officers, are they properly respected? I mean, all these auditor generals fired one after the other across the province for doing their jobs. And something is amiss here, and we want to be there to be able to protect citizens and citizens' rights in the municipalities.
Thank you for your time today.
All the best.